I just mic down actually. That's kind of weird. What the fuck? Very weird. All right. Do I take links to read? Yeah. Oh, speak of the devil. Grand's beating you to it, I think. Grand, you might find this cool. Arcadis. All right, what do you got me looking at here, man? A normal link? Yep, looks like a normal link to me. Mercatus, Mrs. PDF. PDF file. What is this, my friend? Oh my god. Yep, looks fine. Looks fine to me. All right, what is this? It downloads a PDF, my friend. Do you have not a direct link to a PDF? How would I do that? I did. When did I do that? Wait, what? When the hell did I do that? Oh, you can do that? That's literally a thing? You serious? No way. Yeah, look.
He missed a button, bro. How do you not feel
Grand,
that, bro?
TikTok's kind of broken.
What the
It's
Do you see this, man?
kind of broken, man.
What is that?
I load, and that there is.
No, it is. I'm just gonna check. I was watching something. One second. ChatGPT. I guess we can do it this way. Summarize. With what video? My video? Oh, Austrian school. Why are you calling it the Missessian? Why not just call it the Austrian? Also, this is an economic thing, okay? Sure, I can talk about this. I did. This is it. Grand, this is it. You can see this, right? I honestly don't really need much more. Methodological subjectivism. Recognition of radical uncertainty. Okay, so the Austrian school is very much like that. The Austrian school is markets are too complex to understand, therefore leave it alone. That's the best way to understand that. So The question here, it looks like the Mises or the Mises is the essential philosophical proof or thought behind the economic idea that I just presented, right? Is that what I'm getting at? Energy odometer. I think that's probably appropriate, right? Yeah. I mean, who? You're missing someone there. You're missing someone. You're missing the most important person, I think. No, Hayek came later. He didn't create the school of Austrian or the Austrian school. A guy named Karl Menger did. There you go. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Hayek is more well known as well as Ludwig, but they're more like who people generally know, like Road to Serfdom and everything, right? Now, the Austrian school is not something that's used in economics. I just want to make sure that you understand that right away. I mean, I studied econometrics, and while the Austrian school is interesting and has its own name, right? It very much is something that is not remotely applicable to a modern economy whatsoever. It's more like like an old philosophical footnote in like a longer economic thought now. So if I was going to give you a comparison here, okay, it would be like if you were learning evolutionary biology and someone told you to read Charles Darwin, Origin of Species. That would be just not good. There's a lot of problems in Origin of Species. There's new ideas in evolutionary biology that's been built on, right? But it's not like it doesn't satisfy an actual contemporary idea of evolutionary biology whatsoever. So the Austrian school is very much like that. Now, to talk about this philosophical idea behind it, I also just take issue with this as well. I mean, it looks like it's going to use Kant a little, which they already fucked this up. I don't know if you noticed this, but if you've read Kant, and I actually have metaphysics right here on groundwork because I decided to reread this again, and I know Critique of Pure Reason fairly well. I spent a lot of time trying to understand that. I just want to point something out here, okay? Because right away I'm seeing a problem. Critique of Pure Reason is a very difficult book, so you're probably of the same opinion of me, where it was very hard. It took me a long time. At least it's not Hegel, though. You know, Hegel, fuck Hegel. Too many fucking italicized words. But can you remember from Critique of Pure Reason what a synthetic judgment was and a analytic judgment is? Because I'm seeing a problem here already. Yeah. Actually, give me a second. I need a synthetic judgment is going to be when the predicate is contained in the concept of the subject or object, right? So, I mean, no, technically a priori is fine there, but some knowledge is prior to experience, yet still informative about the world. Not informative. I don't know if informative is the right word. um, I think Kant here would say adds to or it it would be cognition, like a cognitive element, right? It doesn't. I don't know if it informs per se, but analytic truths, tautologies, and synthetic truths. Those that add substantive content. Um, just because um, Grand asked me to do it. I guess you seem like you're not trying to fucking fuck me, so I'll open it. I just, I checked links, but that was a straight PDF, so I just wanted to check it first. You can understand that, right? Although it is from the Mercatus Institute, right? Ooh, Mercatus Institute. God damn, bro. Peter Thiessen. Who are these people, by the way? Do you know both of these guys? What they believe and everything like that? I don't like the word substantive here, by the way. Let's read it. I actually don't have any material by von Misses, so you know what? Might as well just go get some. Okay. No. Incorrect. I mean, the classical school is very much a classist based school, and the school of Austrian as well as very similar to like the neoclassical school in a way that they reject the idea of class whatsoever. So I don't. It's about consumerism, right? About consumption. It has nothing to do with class. Whereas Ricardo and Adam Smith very clearly in Wealth of Nations and uh, political writings on taxation, or whatever, or political economy, taxation on political economy, or the fuck Ricardo's fucking book is. I have it on my shelf. I just can't remember the name. Very much keeps a classist approach, and Austrian as well as neoclassical. The idea of consumption overtakes even manufacturing and domestic production, which both Ricardo and Adam Smith thought were like integral to an economy. So Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage doesn't mean he rejects like what was your other comment again? I don't know how that would mean that consumption model is somehow an expansion of. So comparative advantage is just like a really early on macro idea in macroeconomics, but macroeconomics wasn't a thing yet, right? Macroeconomics got its birth with Keynes, but it's kind of in a way a macro idea. It's just thought of on a micro level at the time, but I don't really know. That doesn't really mean anything for the consumption model that Austrian and neoclassical has. So comparative advantage, and you're right, by the way, because Trump's tariffs are absolutely retarded, and I do this a lot on my stream. I'm sure you'll understand this right when I say it, but like Trump just walked back to his lumber tariffs, right? I'm sure maybe you are aware of this, right? So he literally a few days ago, I think, where the fuck is it? Adjusted the imports on lumber and timber because 6 or 7 months ago he had no fucking clue that we can't fucking get lumber, because if you look at the United States on a map, you realize there is no fucking wood. So like we have a comparative disadvantage to Canada and Mexico and a bunch of other countries when it comes to timber, right? So correct. What you said is correct. Trump really needs to apply tariffs intelligently and assiduously because now we're going to be paying the back end cost of 7 months of fucking up the construction start pricing, right? For no fucking reason. Like, but that doesn't really mean the Austrian school somehow has expanded on that idea. In fact, the Austrian school, again, its primary focus is markets are too complex, so governments and everyone should leave it alone. Just free market considerably. Markets will figure it out because we can't understand them fully. We do. Where? Where do you see loads of timber? That isn't a national park, Grand. All of this is a national park. Every single piece of green you see is a national park. Straight up. Every single piece of green you see there. And I'm going to overlay another photo for you, Grand, and you will understand what the US South is and why there is no wood in the South, okay? Because it is a very specific type of geography here in the South, okay? Where all that green is that looks like it can be wood. Okay? It literally is a fucking swamp, okay? That's what the South is, all right? It is an entire swamp, all right? So no, it fucking rots fast. It's not good. It literally is crap. All right. If I zoom in even more, you'll see what I'm talking about. All of this is a swamp. Like all of it. It's way too wet. Also, okay, getting wood from Alaska is more expensive than just getting it from Canada. Okay, you can't fly wood, Grand. You can ship it, but that's still more expensive. I think I could agree with that. I disagree with the outcome though, but I think what you just said is fine. It sounds accurate to me. And, Adam Smith, I feel like in a weird way also thought this, but Adam Smith was a Scottish guy who lived in 1760, so like the LLC wasn't really a thing yet. But Grand, Michigan barely has anything, and I don't know how to tell you this, Grand, but logging companies, okay? Logging environmental damage, okay? Logging companies are notorious for being disgusting, okay, Graham? So this is like the part that people just cannot understand when they just go, well, what do you mean? Just go chop down trees. No. You have to build roads to get out there. People don't want to see these fucking trucks. They don't want to deal with the fucking runoff. They don't want to deal with any of that. So what happens is, Grand, people block all of this. Okay? It is insane to think that Michigan would. No, I don't need to. I know how this works. Why do you think Trump just literally adjusted the fucking imports? It's not feasible, Grand. I already know this. And if it was feasible, if by chance Michigan somehow, because one area here could do logging, it would still be more expensive than just getting it from fucking Canada. Straight up. Just like our friend here said, comparative advantage. What is more reasonable than Keynesian criticisms? Keynesian criticisms. I'm a pluralist. Okay. As if is small. What do you mean? What do you mean if as if is small? It's a fact, Grand. Or else if it truly was that the U.S. could actually supply its timber needs, its lumber needs, we wouldn't be buying it from Canada. Energy. Before I ask you, I'm just going to ask you, do you know what the central premise of Keynes' argument was and how he created macroeconomics? I'm a little confused. What was the central question, the main question that Keynes solved? Keynesian criticism is famous for this one question. It's very simple. I mean, I'm a pluralist. Just keep that in mind. I'm not like someone's gonna be, yeah, Keynesian, blah blah blah. But I just want to make sure you know what you're talking about. I should read this. Sorry. Austrian school's unique methodological stance. No, it does not. This is not unique. It's not. I'm sorry. There are a few other schools that even think this way as well. I know that's the prognosis. What about the diagnosis? So like if you're a doctor, the prognosis means the treatment. The diagnosis is the question of what the illness is. So like what is the diagnosis? Like what is the diagnostic part of Keynes? What is the fundamental question that Keynes asked and why it produced what you just said? Because you're correct. There's a lot of reasons for this, by the way. Where's that freaking? You might be interested in this, by the way. Someone linked this fucking amazing thing to me the other day. It's fucking awesome. Well, Keynes asked the question: if markets are just 100% efficient, right? If markets are supposed to be perfect, okay, which is essentially what most of the dominating hegemony thought at the time, right? Keynes asked, why is there unemployment? How is there even unemployment if markets are supposed to be, machinations of perfect um, uh, productivity and capacity, right? It was a very simple question that somehow no one asked before that, and it's extremely like good because if markets were supposedly perfect on their own, they would have a pretty much just perfect proficiency, right? Where the where the fuck is it, man? Sure. I mean, unemployment allows for job mobility, right? But the problem with so like you mentioned part of Keynesian's prognosis, right? So when you have like a cycle, which Austrian economists don't believe in, but cycles are obviously fucking what happens, just like everything else in life, it ebbs and flows in a way. Um, Cycles exist, right? So when a recession happens, right? Why did Keynes say that the government should essentially spend to offset the shift that happens when people lose their jobs? Why do we increase aggregate demand to address essentially like a demand of labor or aggregate supply of labor, right? Because we're trying to shift the the supply and demand chart here, and aggregate just means composite, right? So why does Keynes argue that that is something that we should do? Um, I'm trying to find this for you really fast. I'm sorry. It's really good. So give me 1 second to see if I can find it. Ah, is this it? No, it's not. Fuck. I mean, Keynesian economics is just like one piece, in my opinion, of a bunch of different ideas that we could use, right? So, what the hell is this? I don't fucking know. Man, this freaking Reddit post was awesome. I'm gonna see if I can find it really fast. It was in Ask Economics, so you might be interested in this. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Fuck. Oh my god, you suck. someone like I actually am not sure. Hmm. I actually don't know who this is. I don't know. Let's read. Let's get one of his books. Why not? Come on, hurry up. What's a good book by him? Why is everything in fucking? Can I get English, bro? Can I get English? God dang. Fundamental Theories of Physics. Yeah, yeah. I know who George Soros is. I didn't know he had a theory of reflexivity though. I thought he was just a rich Jewish guy. Do you have a name of one of the books that you're thinking of getting? So I don't know. We can just read it really fast. Models, Instruments, and Truth. Logic of Scientific Discovery. Okay. There we go. Logic of Scientific Discovery, 1985. Is there a better version of it? Is this a translated book? Sometimes the different publishers are better than others. I don't know. Let's see. $19.59 one. Okay. This one. This is only 3 pages. The Logic of Scientific Discovery. Is that what it's called? Yeah. 1996. 1982, 77, 59. PDF. Damn. It looks like we'll have to settle for the rootledge, eh? Oh my god, it's ugly. I don't want an ugly book. What is it good? Oh my god, it's such an ugly fucking cover, bro. Who the hell decided to make that cover? What in the fuck is that? It looks like a 90s fucking music album, bro. What in God's name? Oh fuck. I didn't mean to do that. No. Man, I really wish I could find this faster. I really think you would like this. I'm gonna try and find it for you. It's like a whole undergraduate course catalog for economics with AI. It was really fucking cool. Probably one of the Grand. You would like this actually. It has AI in it. um, there is no way there's this many people who fucking ask questions. Okay. I am losing it. Anyways, let's open our book. Where'd it go? All right. Is this book too difficult? I don't know. A survey of fundamental problems, the problem of induction, elimination of psychologism, deductive testing of theories, problem of demarcation. Ooh, that's one of my favorite words. Demarcation, man. Gran would know. Bruh. Um, oh, I found it. Let's go. I found it. I got it. We're in the clear. I mean, I have Carl Menger and I have Hayek, and I mean, you can't get to everyone. I found it though. I found it. All right, give me a sec. All right, this is what it is. I don't know why it wouldn't let me save it, but you really might be interested in this. Give me one sec. Screen manager. I'm glad I found this. Not many people would probably enjoy getting this. Okay, so I just posted a link, I think, in the chat. Whatever the fuck it's supposed to pop up. One of these days. Or not. There we go. So if you want to like do some quick Spark Note learning on like some economic stuff, this person, I guess, fucking cataloged, okay? Which is just awesome. Like, it's just awesome, man. They cataloged their entire undergraduate for economics. Okay, so AS and A level economics. So it has like all these courses for macro basic stuff, right? And there's a conceptual map here, so really fucking cool. And you can even ask AI if you want to instead. But the AI here is only to help you find information in this, which I thought was just like super cool, man. I don't know. I haven't really thought of many ways to use AI yet, but this impressed me. So there's like a little side map here, okay? And if you want to learn like consumer behavior, right? You can ask the AI to like give you some information on it, or you can just go into the subsections of it. And I'm actually gonna download this entire thing because I don't want to lose it again. Yeah, there we go. This is a PNG. No, I want the whole thing, bro. Honestly, don't know how to like save it. That's the wrong fucking account too. Stupid. But yeah, I think you might like this thing. I don't know. It has a bunch of sources in it again. I wanted no. I wanted to read. I just if you wanted to like cover some like basic economics, like what Keynesian says and stuff, or you just want like a cool conceptual map, which I thought was really helpful because it's pretty hard to remember everything right off the top of your head. I'm gonna read this book too to see if it's actually complex like you were saying. But if you want to like refer to this, for it's honestly really well done for all of these like subtopics. If you can't remember them off the top of your head, just like a little source that you could use if you want. I found it fucking really cool. So I don't know. Moving on to your book though, let's see. So we have scientific method. I'm assuming that probably is going to talk about the philosophy of science and how there's problems with like naturalistic approaches. No, do you want me to read that article, or do you want me to read the book that you just asked me about? I'm fine doing both, or one or the other, because this is the book that you asked me. Yeah, understood. Unique methodological stance separates from the rest of the economics profession. I kind of disagree. There are a few other schools that come later that have a similar stance, by the way. That markets are like radically uncertain. Methodological subjectivism, recognition of radical uncertainty, and the notion of markets as processes are often cited as defining characteristics, and neoclassical consumption model. But due to its controversial status, I mean, it's just not really that good in a contemporary economy. It doesn't work, but nonetheless, the ideas still exist. Indeed, throughout the history of the Austrian school, many of its adherents have attempted to distance themselves from Menger's exact laws and Mises's a priorism, probably because the idea of Mises's a priorism, from what we just read, it seems like a contradiction, because something that's an a priori axiom is not going to do well in subjectivism, but it's fine. While at the same time building on theoretical insights of these thinkers. All of Mises students from the Vienna years, Hayek was one of their students, okay, attempted to accomplish this two-step maneuver. It is important to recognize, however, that neither Maklep nor Hayek rejected a priorism so much as they sought to qualify the stance. One, Alfred Schultz. Did Hayek try you? I don't see Hayek's name mentioned here. It's kind of a weird way to source because I don't see Hayek's name here. I don't really remember Hayek talking about this at all. Maybe I'm wrong. Hayek, for example, argues, is there a source for this one too? Rothbard. Hayek is not in, there's no citation, bottom footnote, whatever. Hayek, 1937, for example, argues that the pure logic of choice is a necessary component to economic theory. That in no way says that Hayek rejected a priorism. What? Looks like they started writing what my initial thought was because, yeah, the contradiction to without Hayek's own words. I mean, it looks like they want to try and say that actually it was not a supposed contradiction, right? But in the footnotes here, we don't even get Hayek's words himself. We get Rothbard's and how he defends it. I don't know. It's weird citation going on there. I'm pretty sure in Road to Serfdom and a bunch of other Hayek's works. Let's just look it up, I guess. A priorism. Also, aren't we thinking of a priorism here in a more like esoteric sense? It would have to be this specific one, right? Fallibist. I'm going to get a lot of people trying to tell me. This is the problem with Google sometimes, man. I'm going to get a lot of people trying to tell me what they want Hayek to think, right? So I think we have to be a little careful here. A lot of people saying opinion pieces instead of anything else. Jesus Christ. Hayek, the a priorist. What do you make of this? This paper argues that Terence Hutchinson's 1981 argument that young Hayek maintained a position similar to Mises. The first problem with Hutchinson's argument is that it is not clear what conclusion he meant to establish. Mises infamously maintained a rather extreme position, and the concept of a priori knowledge that emerges from Hayek is the opposite of Mises' treatment of a priori knowledge, which is how I kind of remember it. But there are alternative interpretations of Hutchinson's evidence. Does he mention some of the other writers that are in this paper? We'll go back to the original one. Just food for thought. Well, to hold that like synthetic judgment, right? It has to be substantive in like the absolute a priori, right? It's transcendental in a way, right? So, I honestly don't think there's really good argument here. I think Hayek himself would be who we'd want to actually use in this case, instead of a bunch of other people trying to say that he really is, you know, someone who didn't make a contradiction to Mises, apparently. I didn't really know who Mises was before, but I know that Hayek, from what I've read, doesn't believe this level of, or didn't believe in absolute a priorism here, which is kind of an oxymoron if you don't, right? Those Austrian school writers have insisted on the a prioristic nature of economics, have often endured a greater marginalization of their status in the eyes of professionals than those Austrian types who have distanced themselves from the a prioristic approach. Well, probably because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things when it comes to applying economics, in my opinion. I don't know. This is like interesting philosophy more than it is so far about like something that's applicable to economics in the real world. People will explore the methodological a priorism as laid out by its most consistent defender. 100%, we can already tell that Kant influenced. Demonstrate that Mises' application of this idea to the science of economics is not a science, I'm sorry, moves beyond Kant. I very much take issue with that. Specifically, we contend that building upon these developments, Mises eschewed the traditional analytic-synthetic dichotomy successfully, both revealing the illegitimacy of the positivist approach. That would be the neoclassical. Milton Friedman, where markets are completely rational, right? So the trying to show the inverse here, right, between the problem with neoclassical economists and Austrian economists, they're fundamentally like the fucking same thing, except, you know, Milton Friedman and the neoclassicals thought that markets were 100% rational and that the individuals in them knew everything, like had completely rational fucking, not just decisions, but like information, right? Which I think this paper might actually do a good job of showing is false, because I personally think the Austrian school is much more likely to be philosophically and like just, how do we put this, true than the neoclassical one, because I mean 2 seconds of fucking trying to understand how economics works and you realize that people are not rational when they buy anything. That's just me. You know, people will buy cars because their parents had a car. They have no idea why they do it, you know, like the brand, whatever it is. It's just, I do not like the neoliberal, neoclassical approach outside of Kenneth Arrow. And defending the empirical relevance of the mere tautologies in economic science, I agree. Positive economics is not predictive. Finally, we discussed the relevance. Yeah, I just, you know, supreme clothing exists, right? Like, when you look at like the Marshallian demand curve from Milton in Essays on Positive Economics, you know, beautiful math, right? You're just like, man, I wish I was as good at math as like Milton Friedman. And then you're like, what did he use as his parameter, you know? And why is money income assumed to be constant? Wait, what? And then you're like, your parameter for preference of taste is like nothing? Oh, okay, got it. You just assume people will literally buy something else if it goes up in price a little. Like, why would anyone buy the white shirt that's more expensive when this white shirt can substitute? And you're like, because people are fucking like dumb, bro. That's why. Right? We cannot forget that, dude. People will spend thousands of dollars more for no reason because they don't know everything. The idea of synthetic a priori is most famously connected with Immanuel Kant. Groundworks was after, right? Yeah, that was Critique of Pure Reason was first book. Yeah, I'm assuming you've read Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, right? That's a great book. I love his take on like the intuitive aspect of like practice, and like it kind of gave me like some positivity in how you can probably build intuitive practices, right? Can't argue that the problem which arises in human understanding is where subjective conditions of thinking could obtain objective validity. I mean, it's not like you really have to read it. It's not. I mean, you can listen to his talks. I'm sure is what you did, and get the gist. He uh he really shows like a good uh elucidation or illustration of how decision making is really not thought about sometimes, right? And then there's like a clear but not clear line where all of a sudden the intuition is no longer there and it's just like shifted to something that's way more slow and like takes a lot longer, right? So, but I like the fact that he showed that you can like practice that almost like an athlete does in sports to where you build like a memory of whatever you're doing, like maybe math or something like that, right? And then it becomes intuitive. I don't know. I thought it was kind of nice. When I was younger, I thought that like awareness and things like that could not be like practiced. I thought you were just either born unaware and retarded or something. But it was a good book that made me change my mind on that a little. I feel like there should be a semicolon here. Extreme rationalism of philosophers like Leibniz, Wolff, and Baumgartner. Semicolon. Actually, no, this is not a complete sentence. Kant maintained was wrong. I don't really like how I phrase that. I know it's an Oxford comment there, but it fucking breaks my brain. By itself, reason cannot teach us anything about the actual world. Is that what Kant argues? Anything? Doesn't reason teach us a lot about the actual world? Kant would just argue that it doesn't teach us, like, you know, the a priori, like space. He brings up space time, right? As one of his arguments. Or like a tree. I think one of his examples is we know what a tree is before we ever see a tree for some reason, like intuitively. Like there's some a priori intuitive understanding of what it is before we ever experience it. But that doesn't mean that like the analytical judgment can't tell us anything about the actual world. It's a really weird way to phrase that. I guess it does say by itself though. I still don't like this sentence. I don't want the word actual there. I want something like about the inherent existence or something like that, or like the um objective actuality or something like that, right? Because I think materially we can use the word actual here just fine with analytical judgment. Without the data of experience, pure logic is at a loss to impart information to us regarding the reality we live in. Similarly, the empiricism defended by scholars like Locke, Berkeley, and Hume was also incorrect. Tabula rasa. I can't remember that one. Yeah, I feel like I should go fucking get my critique of pure reason because I have a lot of notes and annotations in it, but does Locke argue this? Wait a minute. Facts of the world. Really? Isn't the whole idea of private property in John Locke's writing something that is most definitely not uh century and experienced? Correct? I know he talks about it in essays in human understanding, but so weird. He does. I feel like that's a big uh misunderstanding of like What the fuck? How does unalienable right even make sense if you think that all ideas originate from sensory experiences? What the fuck? The hell, Locke? I guess it's not objectively unalienable then, Locke. Response then to both pure rationalism and both pure empiricism, Kant develops a notion of a class of knowledge held by individuals that, while known to us a priori, nonetheless imparts information about the real world. Now, I feel that this is most definitely going to be very difficult to tie into economics. Because, in a way, yeah, the word axioms there, right? I don't know how they're going to tie this into some economic argument. You know, economics is made up, and a priori concepts I don't think really apply to markets, even if it is uncertainty, which is obviously the, let's just say, like the will, the idea of choice there, right? Um, to think that it is just like an axiomatic a priori concept in economics, I think is going to be hard, but we'll see. And I'm assuming it's going to revolve around uncertainty, right? Like the will of choice and stuff like that. Because that's going to be fundamentally something that the will is kind of like space, right? Um, which is or time is a big thing that Kant talks about in Critique of Pure Reason, right? Where we don't know what time is, but we know about it before we ever experience it, right? So uncertainty can probably take some substitutive place there, right? But to then think that uncertainty there is like able to be expanded to economic ideas, I just find that to be really difficult, but we'll see. It's got to be around uncertainty though, right? I don't think so. Positivism, didn't that start taking hold a lot later? Wasn't it like 1940s, 1950 something? Is when 56 is when essays on economic positivism was. But maybe I'm incorrect. In the early 20th century, I know Alfred Marshall was probably one of the first, but Yeah, it was 1953. His essays. Okay. 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 That would make sense. That would be like David Hume then, right? The whole idea of an ought and everything like that. Okay. I see. I don't really. But Mrs. was a economist, right? And it says in economics. That seems interesting to me. Yeah, it's talking about economics. Yeah, so see see how many years they're fucking just assuming we're like they're just conflating. I don't really like that. um, Another book that was released around this time. Do you remember when Keynes' General Theory on Money and Interest was released? Because that was not logical positivism, and that Keynes's book was fucking famous, right? Like, uh, these two not so much. Milton's book by this time, it was still not the standard. Milton established that. Milton was the established point for that. But for 20 years, I'm pretty sure Milton Freeman was just yelling into the fucking void. So I don't really. It's very like loaded here, but I don't think this is true. There's not really a sea of logical positivism from 1930 to up until like maybe 1950 is when all of a sudden you start seeing some people create that. He was not an economic positivist, and I'm not mistaken, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe I'm just misunderstanding it. I know he doesn't really write about that, so I mean, let's see. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really think he's a positivist, like an economic positivist. Yeah, he doesn't really talk about it too much. He probably has some positivism, you know, but like he does make a distinction. Yeah, I would say that I can't say he's not or is. Well, I think they need to establish that in their writing because they make this sound very much like economics was drowning in economic positivism at this point. In its strongest form, logical positivism denies existence. It feels as if they're trying to say that economics at this time, right, was positivist. And that is just not true. And again, Keynes took over the world for quite a while. Um, and Keynes did not, in the strictest form, deny a priori knowledge or reject all non empirical forms of analysis. That's not, Keynes did not do that. So I don't really like the framing here. It makes it seem as if there's an entire 20 years where Keynes was not the most dominant hegemonic thought in economics for like since 1936 is when 33 or 36 is when he released General, and then like it says here, Milton Friedman's essays on positive economics is really when it became established. But it's okay. We can keep going. I just I don't like the wording. Um, Truth positivists maintain is only accessible through experience. The sterile objectivity that truth demands cannot permit non-facts to pollute it. I agree with this. This is a very big critique of neoclassical, by the way, and Milton Friedman, which is valid. Or You know what this means, right? This footnote. This is, if I was going to use an econometric term here, this is just confounding variables and how economics sometimes is just really words and sentences, and then if you try to make them numbers, you come out with a lot of impossible tests. Yeah. Like, if I was gonna ask something like we do use in econometrics, we use stochastic functions, right? Or stochastic models to try and actually bound things that are difficult like this, right? But at the end of the day, you can't. It's not axiomatic that way, right? They're like, if I was asked this question right now, right? If someone was like, what are the odds that a single atom of hydrogen being changed in the atmosphere contributes to the creation and intensity, okay, of a hurricane. Like, fuck if I know. I mean, we could probably try and bound this, right? But the truth is that a single atom being changed here is going to have like this background hypothesis of that we cannot really figure that out. There's just too much knowledge we don't like. It's just going to produce more questions, right? What if we change like a single molecule and then butterfly effect, that kind of shit, right? So it happens in economics all the time because, again, we're just taking like words and sentences half the time and then we're putting it into numbers. And no matter how hard you try, I'm sure Mrs. here would argue that it's still not even an absolute synthetic judgment, right? Because 2 plus 2, even though it equals 4 and it's an axiomatic mathematical expression, you could argue that the transcendental idea is not, right? But at least in economics, there's a further problem there, is that even in that regard, it's like taking, what is the effect of a climate change on economic modalities in the greater south oil and gas industry, or how about construction industry, right? Like there's nothing axiomatic about that question. So to be objective in this sense, right? To be a positivist, to think that you can like predict exactly what that effect is. Milton Friedman thought he could, but that is just most definitely not possible, right? So I like this paper in this regard because it is pointing out the very obvious fact that like economics for a while just thought that it could make itself objectively axiomatic like mathematics pretty much. Because exactly what it says here, the choice is never between theory and no theory, but it is defended theory and a non-defended theory, because when you try and figure out the net effect or like the effect of climate change on like the construction industry in the greater south, there is always going to be an argument that you never made in your model, right? There's always going to be something you can't include. That's a good, I really like this sentence. This is a really good way to put it. Wait, this is literally another way of saying what I just said, right? Words and sentences in numbers, essentially, right? Yep. Yep. We can only bound our models by what we think we can figure out, right? Like in the hydrogen atom one, right? So changing one atom contributing to a hurricane being made, right? We could use stochastic modeling to try and figure out how much that one molecule or that one atom being changed did contribute. But the one thing we can't do is say that we are certain of like uh objective fact, right? Like that's the one thing we can't do. But we can approach a point of approximation where we can repeat or observe like repetition that is within a margin of error that is scientific, you know. Okay, interesting. A prioristic theory and the interpretation of historical phenomena are intertwined. That is an interesting statement. This is this moneyism? Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying like moneyism, right? Duality, okay. Well, here's a word that I just learned that I wish I'm gonna start saying to people. Quit being a monism. Because people do this all the time. They're just like they figure out one philosophy or one ism, and then they're just like, This is the answer, bro." Like, dude, if it were that easy, we would have figured this out a long time ago, man. It ain't, okay? It ain't. um, there we go. Seems like he's gonna start introducing, or he or she. Is this a guy, right? He's gonna start introducing the philosophy of science here a little, right? Also, Bertrand. Oh wait, I just realized. Did you say Bertrand Russell was a positivist earlier? Logical positivist. That actually sounds kind of correct. I don't know. He definitely probably liked David Hume a lot, right? 17th century continental philosophers would contend that the soul must be immortal. Locke, yeah. Interesting. Take this too. Shit, I wanted the other one. Fuck. Very absurdism here. We got Albert Camus in the building now. Yeah, he's gonna start talking about the philosophy of science here, probably, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like this argument here. I like the idea and the argument so far for this. Paper's getting better as I read it. Reflection or reflection? Assuming this is supposed to be, oh, I guess it's nourishment. Nourishment on what it means to be human. I think it's reflection. That's probably reflection, right? I'm assuming that's reflection. Just say it's reflection. I think you probably think that's reflection as well, right? 20 minutes? All right. Purposeful behavior. Thank you. Sorry, I don't know too much about these people yet, but I'm always willing to learn more. It's fun to go through. The paper is actually, I feel like winning me over as I read it, though. I'm going to be honest with you. As such, this knowledge is a prioritistic. Not become aware of our uniquely human characteristics you experience because we cannot invite experience without purpose. Ah. Taking action is the starting point for all economic theory. Okay. This is why you mentioned praxeology earlier. Yeah. Hmm. I certainly, part of me wants this to be true because I live in this duality of like deeply caring, I think, about everyone around me, but also it just definitively fucking hating everyone at the same time. And there's definitely got to be some unintentional, purposeful thing behind that, right? I really hope it's not just reflexive. It doesn't feel reflexive. Subscribe, practice. Action axiom. If a condition holds, then the following will be done. Ooh, now this, I don't know. Doesn't this sound a little bit paradoxical? Right? What do you think? Sounds a little paradoxical now. It is possible to draw conclusions about human behavior that are both objective and universal by stating that if a condition holds, then the following will be done. Now, for example, the notion that humans engage in acts of choice implies that they have preferences. Now, we can appeal to some other transcendental idea here, right? Which one do you think I'm going to appeal to right now? There we go. That sounds good. You have a guess yet? It's actually a really common topic nowadays. Really common philosophical thing relating to consciousness and determinism. Oh my god, I suck. Free will. Can we say that it is objective and universally true that that free will is true and that we actually have a choice, which means that preferences are now bound to this? We're assuming something here, aren't we? I know it's compatible, but it is not objective, right? That's why you said the word believe there. Correct? Or else you would have said there is free will. It is compatible if free will does objectively exist, but I'm making an appeal right now to the fact that we don't know if that's objectively true. And now it feels like this axiom, which is supposed to be how you draw the conclusion on objectivity and universality, which as it relates to preferences is going to be the root of choice. That is not something that is going to work, right? Kind of ruins that one. Yeah, well, maybe you've heard this before. Because some people think that the choice itself does exist, but where does the will and the inception of the thought to do the choice come from? Is there free will over that? As in, where does the desire get born out of? The will itself. You may have a choice in your head and what it feels like as it relates to you introspectively, but how does the inception, where does it get born out of? Do you choose to have that inception of the choice? So that means it's determined. So your choices are essentially determined in some way. The choice in and of itself, though, is not, right? But doesn't that imply that there's a deterministic nature over this? Like, where does the choice come from? The inception of it. Like, what is the choice born out of? Just simply disposition? I don't think that satisfies. Hey, that M5. How you doing, man? Me too. I actually don't know. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Aha, I got you." I think it's just an interesting question because then it kind of allows for choice to still exist, but then free will doesn't at the same time. But I do want to point out that if some of this writing in this is going to be, preferences is the final economic argument here, right? But the basis of this is going to be on the idea of choice and how it's objective and universal as an axiom. I don't think that would satisfy me now, because the truth is we don't know that if it's objectively true that there is choice. But if we still think about this in the way it is compatible, like you said earlier, when we think that choice does still exist. But now my problem is that it's not satisfactory when it comes to the idea that it's objectively true and universal, though. Like now the deductions and the conclusions are all, in a way, just as corrupted as the positivists that they're criticizing. Well, that M5 Trump is just doing what he said. Trump is sending the National Guard in, using the military against Americans because he said he would do it a long time ago, and people were like, "No, he's not," and he definitely was going to, and now he's doing it, and people are like, "What the heck?" Surprise Pikachu's face, and he's still doing it, and here we are, still having it done, and that's the summary. It's definitely getting more heated week by week, and you already know my opinions. I think it's too late. I think it's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt, right? And we'll just see what happens then, I guess. I don't think a civil war will happen. If Germany is anything to be our lesson, my friend, Germany had a very similar thing where rural areas were not looked well upon, and the cities in Germany were looked well upon. They thought of rural areas the same way we do. They had provinces. The largest province in Germany, where Berlin was, voted very much against the Nazis, if I'm not mistaken, but it didn't matter. The problem with fascism is that it's slow, and it's so slow that it ends up, it takes a long time for that circle to fucking get smaller. Yeah. And because of that, there is never going to be a defining moment, that M5, where civil war will happen. No, you're okay. It's going to be a moment where we look back and go, where was that moment, right? So I don't think there's going to be a moment of civil war, or like where everyone just goes out and protests. It's going to be a moment of regret and the moral, destitute or depravity that's going to happen way down the line. That's usually how it goes. In the course of laying out this argument, makes his first move beyond Kant. Critics of Kant's synthetic a priori notion worry that such a view gives license to any set of theories. Who are the critics who say that? What do you mean arbitrarily? Doesn't Kant, like, the fucking majority of the book is how to not do it arbitrarily, right? Like, what, I know they're just writing about the critiques of other people, but like fucking some very silly critiques, I think. This is a better critique. How do we know which things are actually on the, like, identifiably synthetic judgment? How do we cast synthetic judgment identifiably if it's kind of close, right? Ugh. This is why I find the axiom axiom not satisfactory anymore. Because I think it presupposes things, and actually it kind of is paradoxically saying that choice is not a thing here. and implies determinism in this action definition, I'm confused. Okay, so preference as a choice is no longer possible. Yeah, the categorical imperative, right? Economic theory. See, this is where I'm going to diverge a little bit. I do not believe economic theory is axiomatic. Just full front. I think I'm going to live by the words of Mises himself, which is very much that where is it? It was the duality comment. Here it is. I think. Yeah. Where the fuck? Oh, here it is. These fundamental differences between physical and human sciences require that we be methodological dualists. So, to me, this line speaks very well to me because I don't think economics is axiomatic. And I think if you want to be a dualist, then you can't really appropriate economic axioms. But the more I read this, the more impressive it kind of is, though, right? Where the fuck was I? I was down fucking fuck me. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Man, easier said than done, right? For I think truly that man is not required in this at whatsoever, right? So here's another thought. I to say that something has an a prioristic starting axiom, right? But it must be known without reference to experience and fundamentally connected to the world of man. I find that you could take the last two words here out of it and realize that all of a sudden, fundamentally, we don't need man at all. And you could still illuminate the real world using this philosophy, right? So I think it's kind of interesting to think that man is that important in this, some heightened sense of self importance. Ah, Kenneth Arrow. Uh, ooh. Dude, what do you know about Kenneth Arrow? So Kenneth Arrow, I mentioned him earlier, right? Kenneth Arrow is a neoliberal economist who is not neoliberal. He he studied at the University of Chicago, but his wife was from Stanford, so he naturally got like influence from both schools. Okay, and Kenneth Arrow came up with the impossibility theorem, contributed heavily to social welfare functions, and he's a neoclassical guy. He worked at the Rand Institute or Rand Corporation for fuck's sake. But he's probably one of the neoliberal people that I actually enjoy more. Um, he pretty much came up with the social welfare functions and possibility theorem. Came up with extremely groundbreaking research on healthcare and optimal welfare that a government should do. And yeah, I don't think anyone is. Probably because he has such a fucking loud mouth. Some of his writing's okay though. Like he does a critique of Milton Friedman's ideas on the Great Depression, right, which are pretty good. But then he'll just like try and be a financial analyst to the world and just be wrong all the time, right? So I don't really think anyone likes him. So Kenneth Arrow, I don't know how you can say his ideas remain unconnected to the real world. Kenneth Arrow has like over 300 publications and very much so has shown like his impossibility theorem, which is the most famous thing he did, is very much connected to the real world. I I don't know how you could say this with a straight face. It is completely flawed. Yeah. I just on its face, okay? Like Milton Friedman was a very good mathematician, okay? And Milton Friedman's I understands inflation very well. The thing about his inflationary ideas and the Great Depression papers were not about inflation. He was incorrect because Milton Friedman is really idealistic, okay? There's a reason Milton Friedman did not publish really any macroeconomic material. But he wrote a lot of books about it, right? And that's because Milton Friedman, in my opinion, was a slave to the idealism, much in a way that I'm kind of seeing in this paper. Whereas the very idea and what Milton Friedman wanted neoclassical economics to be, like the very idea that you could predict with rationality everything, was a constant fucking fantasy, but nonetheless, it was a reality to him, right? So he kind of trekked and searched to prove himself right instead of like try to understand if it could be wrong. So a lot of his work is, in my opinion, centered around trying to do just that. There's a lot of stuff on consumerism, a lot of stuff on individual buying behavior, a lot of stuff on, demand curves with consumption as it relates to individual. Again, like neoclassical economics is very good for understanding individual habits, um, and the preferences, and trying to understand the psyche around why people do buy things. It's not very good for understanding firms of individuals and how they relate to each other, or fucking for that matter other countries whatsoever. But his math is really good, right? His math, he's a very talented mathematician. There's one of them, uncertainty. Looks like I kind of called it. Temporality. I'm assuming this means like transitory, not like spatial position. Okay, space. It's just space then. Okay. Causality. Ooh. Ah. I think you know. You probably know the base argument to this one, right? This category here, I think it's very. I don't think I need to talk about that one. The uncertainty one, I think I already mentioned. I feel like that would be really hard because I'm not sure there's some axiom action that you could define with uncertainty there, especially as it relates to economics. Dissatisfaction, this one's interesting. I mean, I gotta know, he's gotta have like a different definition than just what I just Googled for some reason. An imagined preferred state of affairs? How in the world is that axiomatic a priori? Beliefs or expectations about the means available for the satisfaction of wants. Thanks, Grant. I actually am probably going to stop pretty soon because I'm going to Disneyland. Yippee! I'll finish the next up until was Misa's right. Okay. Thank you for the link, by the way, because this is interesting to me. Also, probably interesting to Grand, because Grand over here really likes libertarian shit. Okay. Motherfucker's obsessed with it. Yeah, I stream every day. No, I'm gonna stop after I finish reading this, Grand, because I'm gonna go to Disneyland. Disneyland, sorry. A priori categories evolved along with humans. Okay, so now that makes sense from earlier. That it's fundamentally connected to the world of man. But I don't think that does any favors to say it's now objective and universal. It's not very universal then if it's only to man, right? The categories are subjective. Ooh, I guess that's the methodological subjectivism then, right? Like Brand. No, I'm just fucking with you. I feel like I am passionate about everything. I cannot pin myself down concretely on like my ideology yet. I'm still writing about it, you know. Sure. I think it's already in there. It should be this one. Yeah, there you go. Trump would announce his own fucking. Are they dead yet? I mean, I don't know. Did we drop more bombs there? How many are left? We can have peace once all of them are dead, I guess. Copy from mine. Hmm? Yeah. Yeah, we can. My thing must be broken. It says I have 0 viewers, but is that true? I don't even know. Are there 0 viewers here? I mean, you guys are in here, so I guess that's not true. But how do we raid again? Raid a channel. There we go. One of these boxes. There it is. Okay, I have it ready. Mutually interactive process between our minds and the world, forming a feedback loop between the evolution of our a priori mental categories that determine the world we experience and the reality of the world that conditions our way of thinking and understanding. This is extremely interesting, but I also find it a little bit perplexing and paradoxical. I'm being honest. It's broken for others. Here. I'm gonna download this anyway. Um, Bo K and Lee, and then give it to you there. Ah, is that how you do it? Okay. Sorry, I'm retarded. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm new to this. That's honestly a very interesting article so far. I'm definitely gonna read the rest of it. This last sentence here really seems perplexing and paradoxical to me, but we'll go into it tomorrow. But thank you all for coming in. Okay, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and thank you for watching and giving me an article to read. Okay. Um, energy dominator and energy dominator. That's your name. Yeah. Anyways, have a good night, guys. There you go. I think that worked, right? Did I do it? Make double sure. There we go. Unable to raid. Did I already raid? I already raided, I think, right? Did it work? Someone tell me it worked. Wait, which one am I supposed to do? Roger. God, an hour and 49 minutes. Fucking Christ, man. I thought I watched long form content. Did I rate it? Or something? How do I do this? I want to make sure I rated him. I. Unable to raid. Why? Why? Don't raid. Oh, okay. Oh. Um. I feel like I'm too late. I have affiliate. What do you mean? I am an affiliate. Oh, it's probably because he doesn't follow me? I don't know. Probably because he doesn't follow me. I don't know. Or he has it turned off, maybe? right? For people who, yeah, yeah. Well, I tried. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hope you have a wonderful night. Okay. Good night. And later, Graham.